Hi guys, welcome back for another video. So today's video is a follow-on from the university advice on how to get a first video. This video has been very requested, so I did actually film it last week and I just hated how it ended up looking, so I refilmed it and here it is. Hopefully this is all fine. So I'm going to get straight into it. So this is the video kind of for giving you advice on revision techniques, essay techniques and exam techniques, okay? So a few caveats before I start. First of all, if you have an exam technique that works well for you, stick to it, don't change it, because at the end of the day, if it's not broken, then there's absolutely no point in fixing it. This video is for people who maybe they don't have an exam technique or they have one but it's definitely not working for them, so you can try this one, okay? That's caveat number one. Number two, always make sure that you actually check the marking criteria on your course for the different things that you're going to be doing, and you can also consult with like a lecturer just to make sure you know what you need to be doing on your course. So don't just take this advice and assume that it's going to apply for every single course, every single assignment. No, make sure you always check what the marking criteria requires of you, okay? And also, I did a business degree and then I went on to do a marketing master's, so they were very much essay based exams that I had, so you know this should apply to those people who have essay based exams, but again always check with your with your course kind of what you're meant to be doing before you follow my advice, okay? So I'm going to get straight into it then. So my secret tool, it's not really a secret, but my secret to success in exams, I believe, is the, the mind maps that I do. So I always create mind maps. Now the reason I didn't actually film this video way earlier is because I wanted to find some of my mind maps that I actually did from my master's or my degree course, and I found some. So these are some of my mind maps here, if you can see that. Okay, so I literally have loads of them, and the way I do it is I do one for each kind of almost like a module within a topic area. So for example, within consumer behavior, I have one for the family, and then I have one for consumer behavior, anti-consumption. So I have loads of different ones covering all the different areas within a topic area, okay? So yeah, so like I said, these mind maps are my secret kind of tool, and the way this comes about is basically, so when it comes to exam time, start revising. I will usually start off with my lecture notes. They are the basics. If you just use nothing but your lecture notes to revise from, you are going to be lucky to even get a 2-1. So your lecture notes are just your foundation. You need to build upon that. So I would basically start off with my lecture notes, so I kind of see the kind of basic building blocks that I need to build upon. Once I do that, then I start reading far and wide, reading broader into the topic area, making sure I really understand it, start looking at different viewpoints from different scholars, different models that people have brought forward, different theories and all this kind of stuff, okay? Just so that I really start getting a really good understanding of what I'm reading and of that broader topic area. Because the thing with me is I am an understanding learner, if that makes any sense. But basically I need to understand things in order for it to sink in and to stay in my head. Some people have photographic memories, which if you have that, then amazing. You know, you can literally just look at something and then it'll stay in your head. I am not one of those people. I am somebody who learns by understanding. So that's why I will keep reading and kind of just going really deeply and broadly into the area until I fully feel that I understand, okay? And then the mind maps then come about as a result of all that reading. So as I'm doing all that reading, things that I feel will really benefit me or are going to be really useful in the exam potentially, then I start adding to the mind maps. Okay, let me just show you a little close-up of, let me take this off. This one here is, yeah, consumer behavior on the family. Okay, so this is just a closer look at one of the mind maps. But yeah, so how this comes about is through all the reading that I've done, all the broad reading, then I will start adding anything on here that is going to be useful to me, something that is interesting, something that I feel is going to be relevant potentially in the exam, and help me in the exam. So I learn everything, including like the author or scholar's name and the year and everything. Now on some courses, I know on my course they said you don't have to remember the like years and everything, but it definitely looks way more impressive when you can say, you know, according to Hofstede 1980, because it just shows that you really know your stuff, that you could even like write down the dates. And I definitely, you know, if you can remember these things, then definitely remember them and include them in the exam. But anyway, back to this. So as I'm reading, I will add everything onto this mind map that I need to know in really kind of a really short kind of basic form, in a way that will jog my memory. Okay. So after I put everything onto the mind maps, then I go through each and everything and make sure that I can explain everything on there. So I can explain theories, I can critique theories from different scholars, I can explain a model, I can just talk about everything, and I just test my knowledge in knowing absolutely everything, okay, about everything that I've put on the mind map that I know that I need to learn for the exam. So the way that I kind of help myself to remember everything is by actually writing everything out by hand. So can you see there, if it focuses? Then I just keep doing that over and over again, just writing everything, making sure I remember it. If I'm not remembering it, I will keep writing, like go back to the drawing board, learn it, and then keep writing it again. Yeah. So yeah, that's literally what I do for when I'm revising for exams. Okay, once I feel like I have learned everything and I really have a really sound understanding, then this becomes my little, almost like a testing tool. So anytime, anywhere I am, I'll just pull this out, and then I'll go to one of the sections and just be like, okay, this and this is what this says, this here, this says this and this, and here are the scholars who are advocates of that school of thought or whatever. So yeah, this is like really good. Like I've always done this, and it really massively helps me. It really is very handy. So like I said, if you don't have an exam technique that works for you, try this method, because it really works for me. And maybe it's because I'm a visual learner, I don't know, but definitely try it out if you need a new exam technique. Okay, so that's kind of how I revise for exams. So the next thing then is another way that I would suggest preparing for exams is by forming study groups. So I think I mentioned this in my first university advice video, but study groups are really beneficial because so obviously you do your own thing individually first of all, and then you come together, meet up, and you discuss everything. And that discussion is really beneficial, because sometimes you might help somebody else in an area that they're not so strong in, and then someone else can do the same. So and that kind of you teaching other people and people teaching you is a really good way to get things to stick in your head. So I would definitely recommend that. And if you get like distracted with your friends, then don't do it with your friends. Find like a different study group outside of your friendship group. The next thing that I would strongly recommend when preparing for exams is getting hold of past papers that you can use to practice with. Like there are so many benefits of using past papers to revise. First of all, it gives you the opportunity to see the kind of questions that are asked, how they're phrased and things like that. And secondly, you can like practice you know, finishing an exam within the allocated time. So it really is beneficial. So usually your lecturers will direct you to this resource. If they don't, then just ask them, because usually, you know, past exam papers are usually always available as far as I'm aware. So I would 100% recommend, if that resource is available to you, use it before you get into the exam, because it can be one of the best things that you do prior to that exam. Okay? So sometimes you'll find that there's something that you need to learn, and you just can't physically remember it. It's just proving difficult or just tricky, or there's just loads of different points to remember. So you can use kind of fun, silly ways to remember these things. Things like mnemonics, or you can kind of come up with songs to remember things. I remember in one of my exams, my accounting exam for my undergrad degree, me and my friend Hayley, we was struggling to remember some of the, I think it was the points of a cash flow, the different elements of a cash flow, something like that. And so we came up with like a song, which like an S Club 7 song, and used that to remember it, and it helped us in the exam. So yes, it might be a bit, you know, it might seem a bit weird, a bit silly, but actually if it helps you to remember, then it's not silly, it's actually very useful. So just remember there's things like that that you can use as well if you need to. Okay. My last point then for things to do kind of prior to the exam itself is, and this is a bit of a weird one, but I never used to mess with this because I don't want anything to come between me and the exam. So I would always, the night before or even 2 days before my exam, I would start eating a lot of brain food. So I would always go for fish because fish is supposed to be good for brain function. So yeah, again, if you really want to maximize your chances of doing well and not let anything get in the way of it, then I suggest you do the same too, because yeah, I definitely used to do that. So yeah, so now you have revised, you remember everything, you understand everything so well. It's exam day. You walk into that exam, you sit down, what do you do? Okay, so the first thing that I would recommend you doing is read the question carefully. Read it one more time and then read it again. Before you even start the question, you need to make sure that you fully understand it. There's nothing worse than reading a question, thinking you understand it, writing your answer, reading back the question and realizing that actually you got a bit carried away and you answered something totally different, because as amazing as that essay may be, you're not going to get the marks for it if you're not answering the question. Okay, so make sure you read the question over and over again until you fully understand it. Yeah, now the next thing that I would suggest doing, that I strongly suggest doing, in fact, like really strongly recommend doing, is to take 5 minutes at the start of that exam to plan your answer. Okay, this is in fact one of the most important things to do, right? Like, you will not understand how taking just 5 minutes at the start to plan your answer, you're not going to realize just how much time it's going to save you, and you're going to definitely do way better because you're going to have a more structured answer. Okay, so in my first undergrad degree, kind of at the very start of my degree, I didn't used to do this, and the moment I started doing this, like, so I've always done well in exams, thank God, but as soon as I started doing this, then I definitely saw like I was doing even better. So because I guess what you think is 5 minutes at the start of the exam is taking 5 minutes away from you writing the actual answer, but you shouldn't think of it like that. You should think of it like this: taking 5 minutes at the start of your exam is actually going to save you a hell of a lot of time, because you are going to be able to plan the answer, what you're actually going to put in your answer, and then also you can plan a clear structure for the answer. And all that is going to save you so much time, and you're going to have such a well-structured answer that, you know, the markers are going to be able to follow easily. So 100% just do it, you know. If you don't do that, then you're just going to end up with an essay that maybe is incoherent and it's just all over the place, and you might even get to a point where you're kind of halfway through or near the end, and then you think, oh, do you know what, this is all wrong, but it's too late to change it. So definitely plan your answer before you actually start. It's going to be so useful to you, so don't miss that stage out. I would definitely say don't miss that stage out. And yes, I'm really emphasizing the planning at the start of the exam because it is a game changer. Literally, do it and tell me how you find it, basically, because I can guarantee you're gonna thank me for it. And then the next point then is, as you're writing the exam, just stop every now and again and just read the question, just to make sure you are still answering the question. There's nothing worse than like I mentioned just before, going through it all thinking, oh my god, this is amazing, I know what I'm doing, and then you read the question back and you think, oh, actually I'm answering a slightly different question. So definitely make sure you stop every now and again, just take a second to read the question again, just to make sure that you are actually answering the question. Okay, so then my last kind of tip for when you're actually doing the exam is to, if you finish early, please just take time to go back through. I always find it really weird when people get up and leave with half an hour to spare or whatever, because I just think, if that was me, literally I never leave exams early. I sit there till the very end. If I finish early, then I will just go back through and check my work and make sure that there's nothing that I can improve. I know some people don't like doing this because they feel like they'll make changes that might jeopardize their marks and things like that, but you know, you don't even have to change it, like if you don't want to, if you feel that way, but just check it through, because there may be like little errors in there that you hadn't spotted before that you can fix, that can save you from losing marks. So yeah, definitely, I would definitely recommend kind of staying in there, even if you don't stay till the very end. When you finish it, just check it over again. Don't kind of just finish and leave, because then you might just lose marks for silly little things that might totally be, you know, avoidable. So that is another one. Okay, so now this video is getting a little bit long, but I'll just do the essay stuff, because there's not really that much for me to say, I guess, and a lot of you asked for it, so I'm gonna do it now. When it comes to essays, so again, I'm talking as someone who's done a business management degree and a marketing master's, and we do a lot of essays. So again, same applies with essays as does with revision and exams, is always check your marking criteria. Don't take my advice and apply it to your course without checking what is required of you from your course, and you know, just kind of checking the marking criteria and things like that. Okay, so for essays then, my kind of general recommendation would be always, obviously, you need to have a clear structure to your essay so that the marker can follow it logically, simply, and, you know, yeah, can just follow it in a simple kind of, in a nice easy way. So you need to start with kind of an introduction where you kind of introduce the essay. What's this essay about? What's it going to cover? I personally always bring in a bit of critiquing, so I'll always kind of give a definition of the topic area if possible, and then I'll kind of always find scholars that maybe say something else on the contrary, and then start critiquing since the introduction. So then the main section, then the main body, is where the main analysis happens. So this is where you'll do a lot of your critiquing and really analyze the different literature that exists, bring in literature from all over the place. Again, don't just rely on information that your lecturers have provided you in the lectures. You need to read a lot more broadly. You need to bring in new literature around this topic, around the topic area. Okay, and then your kind of the last section is the kind of the conclusion, and in here is where you summarize your findings. You would recommend areas for further research and things like that. Really, it's just all about having a structure, a clear structure, and critique, as I mentioned in my first video, because that really is a massive thing, and that's going to separate the first class students, like I said, to those who get 2 1s and 2 2s. Okay, so another thing then to just emphasize is the importance of actually reading widely and broadly, because that's going to reflect in obviously the diversity of literature that you brought into the actual essay itself, but then also in your reference section as well. So if you've got, say, a 3,000 essay and you only have 5 references, you definitely have not read broadly enough. Okay, like I was, and I'm probably a bit over the top, but I was one of those people who, for just like a 1,000 word essay, I'd have like 2 to 3 pages or more of references. And that isn't like because I just fancied like throwing loads of random stuff in there. No, it's because I was critiquing a lot. So, you know, this scholar might say this thing, but then I'll find other scholars that argue it and have different arguments on a theory, for example. So you're bringing in loads of different bits of literature. Don't obviously, you know, just bring in references for the sake of bringing references. It is definitely quality over quantity, but yeah, just be aware that you are bringing in literature from far and wide and not just from what you've been given in your lecture. Okay, so that is kind of, I say okay so much, so that is kind of a general overview, I guess, then of how I would recommend you revise for exams and how you actually work in the exam, and then kind of essays. Hopefully this has been beneficial to all of you guys that have been requesting it. I really hope it's been like really helpful for you and will help you at uni or in your work exams or whatever it is. If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up and leave any further video suggestions down below. If you're not subscribed to my channel already, please do subscribe, and I'll catch you in my next video. And also, just one more thing, so I have been seeing all your video requests and I am trying to work through them, so please be patient with me. Alright, see you later. Bye.